Stephen's got business now. He's starting in the US today. There's a new sheriff in town, if you like. This is for big tech companies, isn't it?
Joe Biden has appointed Lina Khan as the new head of the competition and consumer watchdog, the Federal Trade Commission. The 32-year-old is a Columbia Law School professor and renowned competition law scholar. She's previously advised congressional investigations into big tech companies and is known as a fierce critic of Amazon in particular. In a statement, Khan said she looked forward to upholding the mission of the FTC in safeguarding fair competition and protecting consumers, workers and honest businesses from unfair and deceptive practices. She was confirmed by the US Senate on Tuesday as a member of the FTC's board, but then elevated to its chair by the White House. Her appointment has been welcomed by consumer advocates, but described as disheartening by one tech industry group.
Now, a new report has been looking at how domestic workers have been affected by the coronavirus pandemic.
The International Labour Organization says that domestic workers lost their jobs in greater numbers than the rest of the workforce over the last year. According to the ILO report, in the 13 countries they studied, working hours were cut in half on average. In Latin America and the Caribbean, between 25 and 50% of domestic worker jobs were lost, while in Europe, Canada and South Africa it was between 5 and 20%. The ILO is calling on countries to take steps to formalise the employment of domestic workers to ensure they're better protected.
Something different for you now. We're going to turn to Ethiopia. This is the challenges facing the country's tourism sector.
Of course, travel everywhere has been severely curtailed over the past year because of the pandemic. But in Ethiopia, the fighting in the northern Tigray region has also been putting off visitors from going there. Tourism is a major employer in Ethiopia, and it's unclear when the tourists will return. Maria Garth Nicolescu sent us this report.
Desta hasn't left the Ethiopian capital for over a year. Before, this tour guide was traveling the country, but with no clients, he had to become a city driver.
Thank you very much.
His income was divided by two.
Now I just drive at the city, but before, I was driving a day 500, 700 kilometers with the clients. When you go out of Addis Ababa, you see many different things. That was really nice. But now, because of COVID and the Tigray war, it gives us a hard situation for us.
Before the pandemic and the conflict in the north of the country, the tourism sector made up about 10% of the Ethiopian GDP and employed almost 2 million people, according to the government. This tour company is specialized in visits to the northern regions. It had to let go 85% of its employees. Popular for its many historic sites, Tigray used to be one of the main tourist attractions.
In Tigray, here, these rocky one churches around housing, it's more than 80 churches, ancient churches. And Aksum, we were busy around here. There is flight to Mekelle. From Mekelle, it's not open for the moment for the tourists.
In Addis Ababa, museums also stayed empty because of coronavirus. In 2019, up to 500 visitors were coming to the National Museum every day, mainly to admire the famous skeleton of Lucy, 3.2 million years old.
As the impact of coronavirus or COVID-19, we closed the museum for about a year. After we opened it 3 months ago, figure of people are increasing. Last week, we have a figure of 93 foreign visitors.
Ethiopia was recently added to the National Geographic's list of countries to visit. But in Tigray, the situation remains critical. Those working in the tourism sector hope that for now, the many other sites the country has to offer will be enough to entice travelers back.
Quick look at what's happening in the markets next for you. European shares starting the day up. Small gains across London, Paris and Frankfurt. Investors looking ahead to the end of the Federal Reserve meeting in the US later and what that might mean for the bank's stimulus for the American economy. In Asia, there were falls across many of the Asian markets. The Hang Seng, the Shanghai Composite and the Nikkei in Tokyo all down today. The Kospi, though, up, hitting a record high earlier.
Going to bring you some fizzy drinks now on the programme. Not personally, you'll understand, but this is about Cristiano Ronaldo's rejection of CocaCola during a press conference on Monday. It's had a big financial impact.
Around $4 billion was wiped off the value of the soft drink maker after Ronaldo moved those 2 bottles of Coke away from him during the press conference on Monday, turning to his bottle of water instead. Shares in the company dropped by 1.6% almost immediately after the gesture. The drop in value was pretty minimal for Coke, which is still worth around $240 billion. Coca-Cola is one of the sponsors of the Euros Championship. There he is, waving his bottle of water. It said in a statement that everyone is entitled to their drink preferences.
Yes, exactly. Make no comment. Poor old Coca-Cola. Thank you very much. Stephen Carroll with Business of France 24.